Everybody, good afternoon. My name is Jenny Lawton. I'm the team leader of Australia Awards Africa. If you'll just allow us a few moments while we wait for a number of people to join, and just to set up this call properly, we'll start in a moment or two. Thank you. If I can, Minnie, may I confirm that you're on the call with us today?
Yes, I'm
Hi,
on the
Minnie.
call. Hi,
Okay.
can you see me?
No, not yet. Your camera is not activated.
My camera is on my side. You can't see me?
No.
I can see you on my side.
It's showing. So at the top of your screen, it shows that the camera is active. I wonder if that the little camera lens is not maybe on your laptop, Minnie?
It's showing me it's on my side. I can actually see myself.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. I can see you have spotlighted me, right?
Yes, that is correct. But your video footage.
Can I try to exit the spotlight?
Yes, thank you, Minnie. We'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Right now, can you see me?
No, we just see as if your camera is off.
Camera. Okay, let me turn it off and turn it on again. And now?
No,
I think
nothing.
Try and rejoin the call with your camera on. When you're joining the call, just select your camera to be on.
Okay, enough for you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Minnie's going to help us by interpreting our session today, and so it's important that her camera is on. I'll just ask your patience as we wait, just to make sure that she can that we can see her video. Mel, can I confirm that you're able to see the closed captions?
I want to share, so they have to be enabled individually. So I want to drop the instructions in the chat just now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. One moment. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Hi, Minnie. Your camera's still there. We can see you now.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I'm going to spotlight you.
Okay.
There we go. And okay, perfect. And so may I just ask, if you do need the closed captions on, you follow the instructions from Mel in the chat box, but I'll just read those instructions as well. So please enable your live captions by going to More and selecting Language and Speech, then show Live Captions. There is a screenshot if you need to see that as well. Perfect. I'm going to just formally introduce myself again. Um, so my name is Jenny Lawton, and I'm the team leader for Australia Awards Africa. Today with me on the call, we have, if you give me 1 second, sorry, I'm just going to, we have Minnie who will be interpreting for me today. And my colleague Melvin as well, who's just here to help us troubleshoot if we encounter any problems. I thank you very much for joining us. We're very happy to host this event today, and we hope that it will be useful for you and that it will allow you to take the time to submit an application and apply to our scholarship program. If you have any questions, please raise your hand, or you can also, right near the end of the session, we will open the chat so people can type questions. So at about 10 to on the hour, I will stop talking and we'll answer some questions once we open the chat function again. I'm going to just share my screen. Perfect. Okay. So the first thing that I would like to do today is to talk a little bit about what the Australia Awards Scholarship Program is all about. So most people on the call will be very familiar with scholarship programs across the continent and international study. I think one of the things that's critical for us is that the Australia Awards is a development scholarship. And so it's not only about you obtaining a master's degree so that you can come home and get a promotion and earn more money. Rather, it's the Australian government's investment in Africa, where we choose to invest in individuals and we give people skills and knowledge so that they may return to their home countries at the end of their scholarship and make a development contribution in their home countries. Sorry, I'm going to stop for one moment. Minnie, your camera image is very blurry at the moment, and I'm just a little worried that people are not able to see. Mel, can you confirm, is it maybe just mine, or are you also struggling to see Minnie?
Yeah, it is blurry as well on my end.
And now, is it blurry?
It is still a little blurry, Minnie. I'm wondering if
Okay,
you're able to maybe move your computer just to
closer to me.
yes,
And now?
because your connection is quite I don't know if it's interrupted, but we're
Okay.
not seeing a clean image.
Hebu nisaidie na tissue pale. Nisaidie na nipunguze. Give me a minute, I try to wipe it up.
Thank you. You don't perhaps have another Wi-Fi connection, Minnie? Give me 1 second. I think Minnie's joined.
I've joined
There
with
we
my
are.
phone.
So your connection is definitely better, Minnie, but now the we can't see you again.
My camera. Oh, um,
We'll just wait for Minnie to join. One moment.
Jenny, how is it now?
Um, that's so much better. Thank
Oh,
you. I'm going to spotlight again. Thanks, Minnie.
Done.
That's perfect. Perfect. So forgive me. Thank you very much for your patience. So let me go back to just saying, for so the Australia Awards, it's important that you understand from the very beginning that it's not just a personal development opportunity, but rather, if you were successful as an Australia Awards scholar, we ask you to commit to having a development impact when you return home so that you can contribute to the greater good of your country. So we select individuals that can demonstrate an ability to drive change and to contribute to the economic and social development of your individual country. So this is very important for you to consider when submitting an application form, because you need to be able to demonstrate to the selection panel that you would be somebody that can actually have can drive change in their home countries. Okay. As part of the Australia Awards, we JETSI is a very critical component of our program. It's something that is part of our end of program outcomes, and we are actively working towards, equal participation by men and women, and also looking to ensure the participation of people from marginalized groups. So we define JETSI as gender equality, disability, and social inclusion. And we are trying to ensure that minority groups can access our program, that once people have been able to access the program, that we can support them to succeed. And by that, we mean from when you are investigating about the scholarship program, when you submit an application, your selection processes, if you are successful and you travel to Australia, that we can provide the reasonable accommodations that may be necessary to make sure that people can participate equally. And as a second, not secondary, but it's as important, but as a second objective for us is that we want to make sure that all of the participants on our program understand issues of social inclusion, and that when they come home from their scholarship, they can start changing perceptions and opportunities, making opportunities for other people because of their lived experience of learning about social inclusion. So to facilitate this, we've been very intentional about our promotional activities and our outreach. We've been very lucky to partner with two incredible organizations on the continent to help us promote the scholarships, to people who may meet our eligibility criteria, but who also need additional assistance or accommodations to participate in the program. And so that's the first thing we've done. The second thing is that we've adjusted our application eligibility criteria, which we'll talk about in a few slides. And lastly, we have expanded our priority sectors to include JETSI as a priority sector in itself. So in other words, if people wanted to study gender-related masters or disability inclusion-related masters, this has become a priority sector for our program as well. So in general, in order for you to be eligible for the program, you need to meet all of our eligibility criteria. So if you go to our website or if you go to the Australian government's website, you will find the Africa profile that will outline what I'm about to summarize in detail. But just for the sake of this conversation, the first thing to be aware of is that we only offer scholarships at the master's level. So if you were wanting to apply for an undergraduate degree, a postgraduate certificate, for example, or on the other side of that, if you were looking to apply for a PhD, you would not be eligible for the Australia Awards scholarships. So we are only offering scholarships at the master's level. You must currently be employed. Now, for people with disabilities, we extend the definition of employment to volunteering as well. But you need to be doing this on a full-time or more regularly than an ad hoc basis in order for us to consider that employment. You must be 25 on the 1st of February 2026. You or your spouse may not hold Australian citizenship, and you cannot be applying for Australian citizenship. You can't be serving in your country's military. And if you have previously received an Australia Award long-term scholarship, you would not be eligible for the program. Just a note that if you have received an Australia Awards short course before, you are eligible to apply. Okay. Only citizens of the following countries are eligible for the 2026 intake. I'm going to read out the countries, so forgive me, it's a long list, so just be patient with me. So Algeria, Angola, Benin, Botswana, Cote d'Ivoire, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Egypt, Ethiopia, Ghana, Kenya, Madagascar, Malawi, Mauritius, Morocco, Mozambique, Namibia, Nigeria, Rwanda, Senegal, Sierra Leone, South Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Okay, so you must be living in your country of citizenship, or alternatively, is if you are working for an African regional organization. So, in other words, you are still living in Africa, but you are working for a regional organization, or you are on a diplomatic mission for your home country's foreign ministry, then you could be living in another country. Um, but other than that, if you are from a country not listed here, or if you are living somewhere else, other than the exceptions that I provided now, you would not be eligible to apply for the program. Okay. You must hold an undergraduate degree, which we consider equivalent to an Australian undergraduate degree. But you do not need to do the equivalency of that at this point in time. Generally, if your undergraduate is from a recognized university in your home country, it's we will make sure that your equivalency is organized at the time that we apply to an Australian university on your behalf, if you are successfully given a scholarship. So work on the assumption that if your undergraduate degree in your home country, you hold a bachelor's degree, it would be considered an undergraduate degree in Australia. Okay, and then you must be working in and wanting to study in one of these 5 areas: agriculture and food security, climate change, foreign policy and international security, gender, disability and social inclusion, and lastly, mining and energy. So it's very important for you to know that we will not accept applications from any other sector. So you must be working in and you must be wanting to study in one of those 5 sectors. So we get a lot of questions around people wanting, say, they have their academic experience is in education, they've been teaching, and now they are wanting to study social work, for example. In the example that I've just given, you would not be eligible to apply because your undergraduate degree, your work experience, and what you are wanting to study is not in the same sector, right? So there are some, you know, I should also say that the sectors that we have are very wide or broad. Say, for example, if you are wanting to study under climate change, almost all of the masters in the environmental sciences fall under climate change. So it's not that you have to study a master's of climate change, but it's an umbrella sector for the courses that are eligible in our program. Importantly, your work experience and generally your undergraduate degrees would need to be closely aligned to those sectors in order for you to be eligible. Now, there are certain countries where we do require an English language certificate in order for you to be eligible for the program. You need to be able to provide an IELTS certificate or an internet-based TOEFL certificate or a PTE academic certificate. We are unfortunately not able to accept any other certificates. So a Duolingo certificate or the paper-based TOEFL tests are not accepted by the program. If you'll allow me, I'm just going to share the list of countries where you must submit an English language certificate in order to be eligible for the program. So the first one is Algeria, Angola, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, the DRC, that is the Democratic Republic of Congo, Egypt, Ethiopia, Madagascar, Morocco, Mozambique, Rwanda, and Senegal. So those are the countries that are non-English speaking. I should just clarify, this is based on the Australian university's entry requirements. So in other words, you need to provide an English language certificate because if you were successful, when we apply to the Australia Award, to the Australian universities on your behalf, universities require these countries to show evidence of their English capacity. And so, if you are from a Lusophone or a Francophone country, you must submit an IELTS certificate as part of your application. Now, I mentioned very early on in the presentation that we do make equity of access adjustments to our eligibility criteria for people with disability. So, first of all, as a program, the Australia Awards requires applicants to have 5 years of postgraduate work experience. However, if you are somebody who is living with disability, we require that you only have to show a minimum of 3 years work experience. But I must stress that this is postgraduate work experience, but we will also accept volunteer work to contribute to that 3 year requirement. Also, we understand, or we feel that on the continent there is a gap in the policy and practice space of in the JETSI space, and so those of applicants who are living with a disability, but who would like to apply for a master's in gender or a master's in disability studies, and they may already hold a master's degree in a technical subject. We will accept them as part of our equity of access adjustments to our eligibility criteria. If you were somebody that was not living with a disability and you already held a master's degree, you would not be eligible to apply. In this instance, you need to make sure that you are only applying in the JETSI priority sector if you already hold a master's degree and you are someone with a disability. Okay, you need to submit the following documentation as part of your application form. I must stress from the very beginning that you need to submit all of these documents in order for your application to progress through the selection stage. If you do not have one of these questions, I beg your pardon, one of these documents, your application will be considered non-compliant and it won't progress. So critical that you upload all of these documents as part of your application form. So you need your passport, you need your undergraduate degree, certificate, and transcript. So you must have both of those documents. We get a lot of questions around people who have studied in a language other than English. Their certificates and transcripts may be issued in French or in a different language. That is not a problem for your application, and you do not need to have your certificate or your transcripts translated into English. You can submit them in the language that they were issued by the university. You must submit your CV, a most up-to-date CV as possible. and that must be in English. So please don't submit a French or a Portuguese or whatever language. It must be in English. You need to submit an employee and an academic referee report. Also, both of those must be in English. Now, there are templates that we have on our website to guide you in what those referee reports need to look like. But you can also submit a letter written by your employer or your academic referee. Importantly, we just want to confirm how long you've worked with that organization or when you studied at that organization. And we also want the referee report to demonstrate a little bit about you as an individual, the characteristics of you that helps us in the selection process. Forgive me for one moment. Sorry. My cat. Sorry, that was my domestic cat that needed to enter the room. Sorry for the disruption. And then lastly, if you are from one of those 12 countries that I called out earlier, you must submit your English language certificate. I know there was a question around if you are able to submit it afterwards. Unfortunately, we need you, once you've submitted your application and the system closes on the 30th of April, it's not possible to submit documentations beyond that date. And so you must submit it before you apply for the scholarship. I see there's some questions. Mel, can I ask you just to close the chat for a moment, just so we can go through the presentations, and I will read them in a moment. Okay, so I think I'm very close to the end of the presentation. So please, if you'll bear with me, we'll open it up for questions in about 10 minutes. So what constitutes a good application? It's so important to note that we are inundated with tens of thousands of applications every year. We unfortunately cannot give a scholarship to everybody that is, applying for the scholarships. And so we have to go through a selection process. The first step in that process is the eligibility criteria to make sure you meet all the criteria that we've outlined. The second component is the compliance documents. So uploading all those documents that we listed. And then the third one is an assessment on the quality of your application, right? So there must be a clear link between your current work experience, what you are choosing to study in Australia, and what you intend to do when you return home. So you'll remember that we spoke about this being a development scholarship and you being an agent of change in order to make a difference in your home country when you finish your scholarship. Now, as part of our selection processes, we need to judge who we believe is the persons that would have the greatest ability to have that development impact when they return home. Okay, so you need to make sure there is a clear link between you as an individual, your work experience, what you've previously studied, the skills gap you're trying to address, what you want to study in Australia, and what you will do when you come home. What contribution will you make to your organization, your community, your sector, and ultimately your country? Very important for you to consider this as part of your application. You need to be very thoughtful about what course you want to study. So most people will just do a general Google search, and there'll be three main universities that come up from Australia, and they'll select the first one because it's the first one that appeared on the Google search. Those people generally do not get offered an Australia Awards scholarship. There are over 50 universities in Australia that are eligible for our Australia Awards program. Some universities specialize, for example, in mining. Others are world renowned in agriculture. There are others universities that are very specific to international, foreign policy, and doing some research around what the best course and the best university is for you and for your what you want to do when you return home puts you in a better position when you are being selected for the scholarships. There are two very important websites to help you research the courses. I will ask Mel to put them in the chat in a little while. That is www.studyaustralia.gov.au. And the second one is cricos.education.gov.au. Okay. Mel will type them into the chat in a little while and you can follow the links. But you go to those websites and you type in your theme of study. So, for example, if you wanted to study some masters in disability studies, you would type in disability, and the website will bring all the courses that are available in Australia um, to you so that you can go and do research as to which course would be the best one and which university would be the best one. Okay. You need to demonstrate in your application under the supporting statement section as to what skills and knowledge you want to learn in Australia and how you will use them when you come back to Africa to be that agent of change that we were talking about. You need to engage your supervisor and make sure that your organization supports your application. Now, importantly, for this, it's more relevant to public sector applicants, right? So, in general, public sector applicants for our program receive a. Sorry, I just need to take a drink. Excuse me, sorry. So, public sector applicants generally receive a leave of absence from their government organizations, and they will come back to their employing organization and work in that organization when they are finished their scholarship. We know that where a public sector employer supports your intention and what you want to study. One second, sorry, I think we've missed Minnie. Oh, Minnie's back. Thank you. We know that where your employer, your public sector employer, supports your application, there is a better chance that you will be able to, to implement the things that you want to do when you return home because your employer is supporting you. That does not hold true for people in the private sector and generally people from a non-profit organization, right? There are not many private sector and non-profit organizations in Africa, I beg your pardon, that will allow their employees to take 2 years leave of absence and still hold their jobs for them when they return home. So having your employer's support as a public sector applicant is critical. You must have that. However, if you are from a non-profit organization or a private sector organization, we totally appreciate that you may not be able to get this support. And so, when we talk about that referee report, if you wanted to get a referee report from a previous employer and you are working in the private or civil society, you may do so. You do not need to ask your current employer to support you. Again, as I've mentioned earlier, you must submit a complete application. So attach all your documents to make sure that your application progresses. And then very lastly, please submit an honest and accurate application. Do not submit false claims. Your application will go through a rigorous assessment. And if we found your application wanting in terms of, say, for example, the roles and responsibilities in your organization, if you've embellished those and they are more than what your actual responsibilities are, the Australian government reserves the right to withdraw your scholarship. So do not submit false claims. And very importantly, please do not use any artificial intelligence or chat GBT or Copilot to write your application for you. We test applications for this, and we know that people who use AI assisted responses submit generic, poor quality applications. We want to hear from you as an individual, and we want to hear your authentic voice in submitting an application. It is completely day and night differences between those people that have been thoughtful and intentional about their responses and those that have used AI to help them complete their application. I guess my key message to this is also start working on your application now. It's a comprehensive application. You'll appreciate that it's a fully funded 2-year international scholarship. And so each scholarship is worth a lot of money. And so we do require people to take the time and effort to put a comprehensive application together. Please do not leave your application to the 29th of April. It will, like, the system gets incredibly slow. There is a time difference between Africa and Australia when the applications close, and we cannot submit or receive, I beg your pardon, late applications. When the system closes, it closes globally, and there, we are not able to submit any more applications than those that were received before the deadline. Okay, I want to talk just for a moment around give me 1 second, sorry. I just want to see something around, how you can research the right course choice for you, right? So think about what skills and knowledge do you want to gain? Like, what is it in your organization or your country that you are trying to address? Like, how will those skills help me in my current or my future employment? And what are my short and long-term goals? It's very important that you answer those questions to help you guide where you want to study and what you want to study, right? So do you want a specialized degree, or you are looking for a more general degree with greater flexibility? Do you want to do a research component, or you want to do a master's by research in itself? Do you want to participate in internships? Do you actually meet the minimum entry requirements for the course you're looking at? We find so many people think about rather which university they want to study at rather than the course content. So they pick a university based on its ranking or its prestige. But that may not necessarily be the right university for the course that you need to study. So please go to this CRICOS website that we've spoken about. Research all of the degrees that are available, and choose 2 courses and 2 universities that you will put on your application form. Okay. You need to take some time to consider what the course is that you want to apply for. It's a very important component of the scholarship. Okay. So the application steps. What do I need to do to apply for this scholarship? Please first go to our website, to the Australia Awards Africa website. Complete the pre-assessment checklist. So once you click on apply for an award on our website, there will be a little pre-eligibility assessment on the website. and answer the questions truthfully about your individual circumstances. The system will make an assessment as to whether you are eligible or not eligible for the program. If you are eligible, you will then be directed to the website where you will physically submit your application form. You will register your details, and the system will send you an email. Once you've received that email, you'll click on the link, and then you will go into your application home page. Okay, remember, you must complete all the questions on the application form, and you must upload all of your documents before clicking on the submit button. So you can save your application and come back to it tomorrow or the next day or this afternoon. You do not have to complete the application in one sitting. So have a look at the application, see what you need to complete, go do your course research, think about your supporting statement, and then come and complete your application. Okay, so applications are open from now until the 30th of April. So please, very important, it closes at midnight Australian Eastern Standard Time. So for those of us that are in West Africa, that's 11 hours before your midnight, right? So just to be safe, please submit your application by the 29th of April. You don't want to miss the deadline because of the time zone differences. We are not able to submit any of those applications that are received after the deadline. The system does not allow it. So please submit by the 29th of April to be safe. We will then go through a system of the selection of the, so you remember in the beginning I spoke about we'll check your eligibility, then we will check your compliance, and then we will check the quality of your application, specifically your supporting statement. And that will go through an assessment by an independent panel. And at the end of June, we will notify all applicants whether they have been shortlisted to attend a selection interview or that they have not progressed and that their application was not successful. So that is the first time that you will hear from us from the program is in July. Then between August and November of this year, if you are successfully offered a scholarship, we will work on your mobilization. So in other words, we will help you apply for your visa. We will book your travel to Australia, and we will find you a place at your preferred university in Australia. So very important that you do not need to apply to an Australian university at this point in the cycle. If you are successfully offered an Australia Award scholarship, we will apply to the university on your behalf. And if you are successful in general, most people will mobilize in January 26. Okay, so in terms of people with disabilities, so the Australia Awards are committed to ensuring the equitable participation and the inclusion of diverse groups. Having a disability will not disadvantage individuals, not in the application stage nor in the selection processes, right? We encourage applications from those people with disabilities and those working with people with disabilities, right? All applications are considered equally, and we do have support available. This is on a case-by-case basis through the provision of reasonable adjustments and accommodations. But we need to know if there is any support that you may need. So very importantly, if you can visit the JETSI Support Hub on our website to learn a little bit more about these accommodations that we have. And also, I would like for Mel to type in our JETSI email address in the chat group, because if you can send us an email at Jetsy at australiaawardsafrica.org if you are having difficulties in submitting your application as a result of your disability, so that we can help you or make the necessary accommodations to ensure that you are able to submit your application. The same holds strong for women and men. Gender equality is an integral part of our development policy, and we want to make sure that there is equal participation and benefit for both men and women. And we are looking to make sure that as many eligible women as possible apply for the Australia Awards program so that we can redress any gender disparities, I beg your pardon, across the award cycle. So in general, our program has predominantly received more applications from qualified men than women, and so we are encouraging women to apply for the scholarships so that we can increase the number of applications from women. So, reasonable support for women, including pregnant women and those with care responsibilities, is available throughout our application and selection and scholarship cycles, right? I so encourage you to go to our website and look at the Jetsy Support Hub so that you can see these examples in practice. Just off the top of my head, we are mobilizing a number of scholars this year who have a mobility disability, and they are not able to travel to Australia by themselves. They need assistance, and so the program will fund a carer to travel with you to Australia and be with you for the 2 years that you need to be in Australia for your scholarship. Another example is where somebody may have a visual impairment, and they need specific software on their computer in order to participate. When they are studying in Australia, we can support with the purchase and the training on how to use that software, so that when you get to Australia, you are ready, and that you don't first need to learn how to use the software, but you can just crack on with studying your scholarship, in Australia. So please go and look at our website for some of these examples. When we talk about care responsibilities for women, it may be that you are successfully given a scholarship, but you've recently had a baby. If you need to travel for program related events, for example, we do a pre-departure briefing. We will pay for your newborn plus a carer to travel with you to the pre-departure briefing so that you can participate in the briefing, but that you're also not disadvantaged because you have a newborn baby that you can't leave at home. So there is all these accommodations that we can make. It may be that you as a woman fall pregnant, as you've submitted an application, you've been successfully offered a scholarship and you found out that you've fallen pregnant. You will not lose your scholarship because you are having a baby, but rather we will work with you to see, maybe we defer the start of your scholarship for 6 months, so that you can have the baby and nurse the baby at home in a safe environment. And when you are ready, you will take up the scholarship. These are just examples. What we do is we will meet with anybody that requires accommodation on an individual basis. We'll do an assessment and we'll work with you to find out what your needs are and then be able to respond with what we can reasonably be able to provide to you as a recipient. That is the end of my presentation. I know that there are a number of questions on the chat. I'm going to, Mel, I'll just ask that we keep the chat closed for a moment still. Let's address these questions first, and then we'll open it up in a moment for a few more questions. I'm really sorry that we're going to run over time. We will share this presentation with you, the recording of the presentation, so you will be able to access the answers to the questions if needed at a later stage. And if you are not able to stay on to the call, we'll answer questions for about 20 minutes. At about quarter past or 20 past the hour, we will conclude the workshop. So if you are able to stay on, please do stay on, and let me answer some of the questions. So Gillian Moses from Disabled People South Africa. Do I need to be based in Australia for the duration of the study? Will we get the presentation after the session? Okay, so yes, Gillian, we will give you the presentation. We will share it with all the delegates that attended this session. But our scholarship is an onshore, in-person scholarship. So you need to be in Australia for the duration of your scholarship. There are some entitlements that allow you to travel home if your scholarship is longer than 2 years and certain requirements are met. But you can travel home to visit home after your first year in Australia. But in general, during the semesters, you need to be in Australia. Jean-Jules from Rwanda says, is it not possible to submit the English proficiency certificate after? I've answered that question. Unfortunately not. You need to submit it as part of your application. Further goes on to say, I did undergraduate in English and I have an English proficiency certificate delivered by my university, as I spent full year of learning English before entering into university. I found we are not considered as English-speaking country. Can I sit the test and submit the TOEFL results after? So unfortunately, Jean, no. You need to sit the test as soon as possible because you are from a francophone country, and I know that Rwanda is both francophone and anglophone. However, in terms of the Australian universities, they consider Rwanda to be francophone, and so you must submit that English language certificate. I am Mayoba from Zambia, a wheelchair user. I observed that last year's selection process seemed to favor candidates from government institutions. I'm curious about the opportunities for individuals working in the NGO sector, especially those of us in the disability sector. I firmly believe that acquiring new skills through the Australia Awards would enable us to drive meaningful change in advocating for inclusive laws and policies. By empowering disability sector professionals, we can amplify our voices and more effectively influence government decisions. Could you provide insight into the prospect for NGO professionals, particularly those in the disability sector, to benefit from the program? Mayoba, thank you very much for your question. If I may say unequivocally, we 100% agree with what you have stated. I don't believe that our selection processes favored government institutions. We do not have evidence to substantiate that statement. What I can say is that a larger number of public sector applicants generally tend to apply for our scholarship, but we are looking for people from the private sector and certainly from the civil society or NGO sector to apply for our scholarships. My observation would be that when we go back to that link, right? Sorry, I'm just scrolling back onto my screen. For when we talk about submitting a winning application and we talk about the skills gap that you currently find in your employment, what you want to study in Australia, and what you do when you come home is slightly easier for somebody who knows what job they are going to return to when they are finished their scholarship, right? So, for example, if I work for the Ministry of Agriculture as an agricultural extension officer, I know that in general, my ministry is going to give me study leave, and I will come back to the Ministry of Agriculture as an agricultural extension officer. And so therefore, the link between the skills gap that I'm currently missing, what I want to study in Australia, and what I will do when I come home is easier to articulate, right? If you are working for a nonprofit organization or for a private sector organization and you are not sure that you will actually go back to that same position after the 2 years, the supporting statement is a little bit more difficult for you. In general, our experience has been people often will defer to, I will consult when I come home. So I will go and I will study, for example, disability inclusion. And then I will come back to my country, Mayoba, as your example, as and start my own consultancy firm so that I can advocate for people with disabilities in Zambia. As you demonstrate that supporting statement, you because you've been working in a nonprofit organization, you actually haven't been able to demonstrate that you can work as a consultant. It's a very difficult job being like an individual consultant or a private consultant. And so it's very hard for people in those circumstances that I've given to showcase that they will become a consultant and that they will be able to advocate for people with disabilities in their individual capacity, because there is no evidence to substantiate what your intention will be. So, Mayoba, to just summarize very briefly, I think, that link between your work experience, your course, and what you are going to do when you get home is slightly more difficult for people from the private sector and civil society. It requires you to be more intentional and more thoughtful and more accurate about what you will do when you come back, so that we can measure the extent to which you will be a change agent in your home country. I hope I've answered that. Okay, Mel has shared those links. Okay, and so now we have some questions from the room. We have 6 questions. I think we'll take these 6 questions. So Castro will be the last person at the moment that we have. And so, John, may I call on you to ask your question? I will open your microphone for you.
Yeah, thank you. My name is John from Kenya. I have 2 questions. One, is there age limit? There's age limit below 25, but we don't know how high a person should be. Number 2, what if employed in Kenya but with frequent field visit to a country that is not listed as a country that can qualify for the scholarship? Am I still also eligible to that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, John. Thank you for your 2 questions. So there is no upper age bracket. So in other words, as long as you are 25 years or older on the 1st of February 2026, you can apply. So even if you were in your 60s and wanting to apply, you are eligible for the program. I guess my one piece of advice would be, let's try, you shouldn't say, look, I'm going to retire in a year's time if you are on the upper age brackets, because we want people to be able to demonstrate that they will be change agents when they return to their home country, right? So what is it that you will do in order to have a development impact when you return to your home country? John, if you are Kenyan, you are living in Kenya, you are employed in Kenya, you are eligible to apply. Even if you spent 360 days on the road on behalf of your employer, you are technically living, employed by, and you are a Kenyan citizen, you are eligible to apply. Okay, so yes, you may apply based on the example you applied. Emmanuel, I'm going to unmute you. If you can ask your question, please, Emmanuel. Emmanuel, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm Emmanuel Paddy from Ghana. And my question, you made mention of certain documents we are supposed to submit when we are filling the forms.
Yes,
One key one is the transcript. For
yes,
example, I completed my undergraduate. I graduated in 2013. As at
yes,
the time, as at the time I took my transcript, as at that time, is it still valid for me to use it at
yes,
this time?
yes. 100% valid. Yes.
All right, all right. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Emmanuel. Let me just give me 1 second. Okay. Mary Jane, can you go ahead? I'm going to allow your microphone.
Good
Go
afternoon
ahead.
here in Nigeria. Okay, please, I have a few questions. The first one is the template that we are to get from this website.
Yes.
Are we to print it colored, or we can just print it normal and it needs the stamp?
Yes, yes. So no, you
Our
can print it in black and white, no problem at all. It doesn't matter. If you choose to do it in color, that's your choice. You also don't necessarily have to use the template itself. It's just a guideline to show you what types of things you need to include in that referee report. Wherever possible, though, Mary Jane, please have your supervisor, physically sign it. And if you can get a stamp, that's even better. But please, let's try not to type somebody's name in the document, if that makes sense what I'm saying.
I should not do what?
So, like, you don't want your supervisor to type their name. You want them to sign the document so that we know that it's them that wrote and supports that document.
Okay, okay, it shouldn't be typed.
Their name. So at the bottom where you sign the employer referee letter, sometimes people will just type their name. So they will go, kind regards, Jenny Lawton, and send it. We asking you to have them, kind regards, Jenny Lawton, but I sign it, not just my name typed on the letter.
Okay. Okay, so the second question, please.
Yes.
The second question is, do we have to also upload our employment letter? Like for me, I work in the Ministry of Information, but deployed to Disability Rights Commission.
Yes.
So do we have to upload the employment letter to show that you're actually employed or something?
So at this point in time, Mary Jane, your CV and the employer referee report will demonstrate to us your employment. That is all you need. Like, you don't have to submit a copy of your employment contract or your appointment letter. You don't need to do that. If you are successfully offered a scholarship, we will verify your employment at a later point in the cycle. But in terms of your actual application, your CV and that referee report is how you demonstrate to us that you are employed.
Okay. Okay.
Perfect. Perfect. Next, we have Julian Mwapi. Julian, I'm going to allow your microphone if you can ask your question.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Julian Mwape. I'm from Zambia. My question is on the requirement of the 3 years postgraduate experience.
Yes.
Would the work experience that an individual acquires while studying for their bachelor's program count? Thank you.
So Julian, it's post graduate work experience. Okay. So in other words,
Right.
from the day that you've graduated and we work up all the way up to the January of 2026, where you are going to mobilize, right? So it has to be after you've
Yeah.
graduated. But say, for example, if as at today you have 4 years work experience, right? We will add
Yeah.
in the time up until you get to January 2026. So another 8 months onto that. And
Okay.
then we consider the 3 years work experience. Just a reminder that the 3 years is only for applicants with disabilities, right? If you
Yeah.
are not someone with a disability, you need the 5 years of work experience.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you so
Julian. Thank
much.
you very much. Okay, Castro, I'm going to unmute you, and then you can, or allow your microphone, you can ask your question. Castro, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Perhaps we'll move on to Benji, and I will, once Benji has asked his question, we'll come back to Castro. Benji, can you go ahead and ask your question?
Hello.
Hey, Benji, can you hear us? I
Yep.
can hear you okay.
Okay. Good morning.
Hi.
All right. So with the Ghana Education Service, and I teach agriculture science
Yes,
for 5 years now. So per your courses on your program, I'm with the agriculture sector under Ghana
yes,
Education Service. So can I apply for agriculture on your program?
yes,
Do I
yes,
qualify?
yes, that is correct.
Okay. And the second
Yes,
one is with the referee report. I called back the school. I completed to 2000, no, 2019, sorry. And I called back.
yes.
I wanted to find out if I will be able to get someone to do it for me. And it yield no results. Do I have any means?
Sorry, Benji. So you're talking about the academic referee report, and
Yes,
you are
yes,
having difficulties from the
yes,
university to get that letter. Okay.
yes.
So look, Benji, let me maybe summarize this for everybody. Very important is to
Okay,
get an employer referee report, right? Secondly, we do like the academic referee report, but you know, if I had to go, I studied 20 years ago. There's nobody at my university that would know or be
yeah,
aware of me. In that
yeah.
instance, just get a second referee report. So if you are able to get one from somebody else in a position of authority at your employment organization, perhaps
Okay,
you volunteer at another organization in your spare time, or your
yeah, sure.
church, or somebody in the community. But just be clear in that referee report who this person is and why they're giving you a reference. Okay.
Okay,
But you
okay.
must submit to.
All right, all right.
Perfect. Thanks, Benji. Thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much.
Okay. Castro, are you there? Can you hear us now? Castro Coffee? Okay, maybe I'll call on John Edison. John, I'm going to allow your mic if you can ask your question for me.
Mm.
Oh,
Hello,
hold on,
I'm
sorry.
ready now. Castro is ready.
Hi, Castro, go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay, I read environmental as my first degree,
Yes.
And then I've worked as a civic education educator for the past 5 years, which
Yes.
has a bit of environmental governance and also disability right advocacy. So I'm kind of confused as the area to consider whether the environmental, where I already have a first degree, or the disability advocate, which is also embedded in the civic education that I've been doing for the past 5 years. Though the environmental is also part of the civic education that I've been doing, so I'm kind of confused.
Okay. So look, I think, Castro, the most important thing is, like, if we go back to these questions, here where we talk about, like, what skills and knowledge do I want to gain? How will those skills help me in my current and future employment? And what are my short and my long-term goals? So, as much as I would like to say to you, I study the disability or study the environmental sciences, like, you need to answer these questions for yourself, right? And but it's important that you can demonstrate. So often where applications fall short is people looking to do a career change as part of this scholarship program, right? And that is the exact opposite of what I would guide you in doing. You need to be able to demonstrate, look, in my current employment, I am doing, like, shall we say, disability advocacy as 70% of my work, but I don't have the technical skills. And my university that I work for, or my teaching organization, has said that when I come back, they want me to run a disability department in the organization. I'm making up the example, but you can then clearly see the link that I am saying in my example around why you've chosen to gone the disability route, and what you're going to do with that disability skills and knowledge that you gain when you come back, right? So you need to just take some time to answer those three key questions. If you are able to discuss with your employer, like, maybe you're working for a private company and it's not possible, but if you are able to discuss with your employer, the two of you should think about what is better, the environment or the JETSI component of this. Where can I have the biggest impact in this organization when I come home? And using all of that knowledge that you've thought through, you will make a decision around what is the route that you are wanting to take. I think what is very important to emphasize on this call, if you are working as an agricultural extension officer in your community in northern Kenya, for example, everything you do is related to agriculture, and it's all agricultural driven. Yes, you do interact with the community, and making sure that women participate in government sponsored programs is important, but you actually have no experience working in the gender or the disability or the social inclusion field. You can't now want to come and apply for the JETSI priority sector, and then say, when I come back, I'm going to work for the Ministry of Women. I'm making up the example again. But can you see the example that I've just given is completely a career change? You were an agriculturalist previously, and now you want to work in the JETSI, policy and procedures, or, the JETSI sector. That's a switch of your career, and the program does not support that. Okay. Castro, I hope I've answered your question. Now we're going to move on to John Edison. Hi, John. I'm going to allow your microphone. Do you want to ask your question? Hi, John. Can you hear me? Okay, let's move on to Gemi. To Gemi, I'm going to unmute you, and can you ask your question for us? Tugemi Nicholas. Hi, Tugemi, can you hear me? Okay. Jennifer, I'm going to unmute your microphone. Can you ask your question, Jennifer? John, are you there? I think I see that your microphone is activated. John, can you ask your question? John, Tugemi, Jennifer, anybody, if you can, I've allowed your microphone, so if, hi.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, Jennifer.
From Nigeria. I have like two questions to answer, like clarification, because you answered some questions. I still need some clarifications. Number one, I studied law. I'm a lawyer, but I want to. A feminist. Like I volunteer for gender-based civil society, non-governmental organization on my free time. So I want to do something relating to gender. I don't know whether I can branch out because I heard when you said that if you are working in a sector, you cannot have a career change. But I'm someone that is passionate about gender and feminism. And also number two, getting referee especially academia is very difficult. I had when you attend one of the
Jennifer, sorry, if I may just stop you for one moment. Let me just clarify your question because I was struggling to hear you. So you summarized that you are a lawyer. In your spare time, you volunteer with women's organizations. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So in that instance, Jennifer, you are already working in the sector, right? And for me, you have a law degree, you are working as a lawyer, but you are helping women's organizations, and therefore doing a master's of gender studies. There is a clear link between those examples. So I would say yes, you can apply.
Okay, I wanted to ask another question. And when I downloaded the document for referee, to type is a bit difficult. Is it that I'll print it out and the referee report, the referee will write on it, or they can type on it? Because I tried seeing whether it can be typed, but it can't be typed.
Sorry, Jennifer, I'm really struggling to hear you. I heard that you were downloading the template for the employer report, and then I lost you. I didn't get the remaining part of what you were saying.
It's difficult to type on it. I don't know whether it's to be printed and written on.
You know what? You can retype it into another document. You can do it in your own format. You do not have to submit your referee report on that template. It is just an example.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Jennifer. Jennifer, sorry, I almost called you Jennifer because that's my name. I beg your pardon. Thank you for your question. Tepo. Actually, no, Tipple, before I call on you, sorry. John Edison, are you there? John Edison, can you hear me? Tugumi, Nicholas, can you hear me? Okay. Tsepo, I'm going to unmute your microphone, and can you go ahead and ask your question?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly. Thank you, Tsepo.
Yeah, this is Tepo from SA. Mine is not actually a question. It's more
Yes.
of a request
Yes.
regarding the requirements, more especially for us people living with disabilities. In
Yes.
terms of employment, as the lady, was it from Namibia? She mentioned, I understand you explain it in so many ways, the importance of being employed.
Yes.
However, my argument together with the plea is to say it doesn't mean that simply because of I'm currently not employed, I don't have the intention to contribute in my society in whatever way in line with the studies or the qualifications I have currently.
Yes.
Because to me, it somehow doesn't make sense to say, in order for you to contribute to your society, you must demonstrate that through employment. I'll use a high school or a secondary learner who decide that next year I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a scientist, I want to be a teacher, I want to do that. That learner, it doesn't have anything tangible to show or to demonstrate to you that indeed he wants to follow that career path. However,
Yes.
the person, the intentions, they are good, they are in the right place. So by so doing, to say we need you to be employed in order for us to consider application, I feel that one, it's a bit off for me, and it's more of excluding most of us. I understand it's a requirement. I'm just saying in future, maybe you could try to loosen up a bit to accommodate those who are not currently employed, but they have a future. They have a passion to follow
Yes.
their
Tsepo,
dream.
look, I appreciate your comment, and I understand the frustration that people experience, based on our eligibility criteria. If you'll allow me just to respond by saying, you know, as much as we would like to offer a scholarship to every single person that needs, give me 1 second, sorry, I'm gonna, every single person that needs a scholarship in Africa, like it's just, we are not able to do that, right? And so therefore we have to make very difficult decisions around who we will accept applications from. People studying in the or working in health can also have the comment around, but why is health not a sector? You are excluding us as people working in the health sector. And so we can we can, unfortunately, we just have to make decisions so that we can streamline and have the biggest impact that we can have with the amount of resources that we have available to us. In our experience on the program, we know that those with more years of work experience and with those that are currently working at the time that they are applying for the scholarships, we have been able to measure that they have been able to implement what we call their reintegration action plans to a greater extent. And so that is the evidence that's driving why we have an eligibility criteria. But I appreciate your point, and I know there are some of my colleagues on this call that will take up your discussion so that we continue to review the eligibility criteria to try and make it as accessible to as many people as possible. So, Tebo, thank you for your comment. I'm sorry that I don't have the positive response for you. I did just want to share why we make the decisions we do. Evelyn, I'm going to actually, I beg your pardon. No, John, John Edison, are you able to ask your question? And I'm also very conscious. Okay, so Evelyn, can you go ahead and ask your question? We're going to have to wrap up our session at some point, and I'm very worried that I'm not going to get through all 11 questions. And so may I ask, I'm going to take Evelyn's question, and then I'm going to take Kahindi's question. I will share my email address in the chat, and I will ask those that I have not been able to answer their questions to email me directly. I will respond to your email, and then we will also share a document with everybody that was on the call, what your question was, so that they have an answer to those questions as well. So Evelyn, I'm going to unmute you, and can you go ahead and ask your question?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Evelyn Ogola from Kenya. My first question is my passport expires in October 2027. So if
Yes.
the scholarship is running for 2 years, what will happen?
Okay.
And the second question, and in an instance whereby, for example, maybe I'm pregnant or I get pregnant during 2026, and maybe I'm to deliver around May or April of next year, what happens? And for how long? I mean, how many years does this scholarship long will it take?
Say that again. For how many years does the scholarship?
How long will it take for another opportunity like this to come up after the 2 years?
Okay.
Yes.
So Evelyn, the first answer is you do not need to apply for a new passport at this point in time. If you were successfully given the scholarship, we would need to apply for a new passport before you traveled to Australia, right? So your visa will not be issued for an end date beyond your passport end date. I know in Kenya, there's a little bit of difficulty around that, but I know that my colleague Melvin has worked magic in order to get a new passport. And so you will need to apply for one, but only if you are successfully offered the scholarship. Submit your application with the passport that you have now. Okay. And then your second question, in Evelyn, around, when will the scholarship opportunity come again if you fell pregnant? So if you were successfully given the scholarship and you fell pregnant, you would not lose your scholarship, right? We will work with you around when is the best date for you to mobilize. And in general, like that, it can be up to a year later. So, say if you fell pregnant and you were due to deliver in May, we can negotiate like an extension, I beg your pardon, a deferral to the first of to start in 2027. We will do this individually and based on a case-by-case basis. But it's not that you will have to withdraw your scholarship and apply again. We will defer your scholarship. Okay. All right. John Edison. We seem to be missing John. Tagumi, I see you've Tagumi Nicholas, can you ask your question? Let me enable your microphone. Hi Tagumi, can you hear us? Can you ask your question? John Edison, can you hear us? Okay, let me take Kehindu's question, and then I will put in the chat my email address and so forth. Actually, I'm wondering, Mel, perhaps you can open the chat, and everybody that has their hand up, if you can just type your question in the chat, we will pick it up and then we will respond. When we share the recording of this session, we will answer those questions as well. Kahindi, can I take your question, please? And for those, the rest of the group, may you type your question in the chat box, please. Kahindi.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Kahindi, how are you?
Yes, I'm Kende Fayinka from Nigeria. So I have two questions before me. The first question is it possible for us to upload our referee report after the submission of the application? That is number one. Then secondly, I would like to ask that for someone like me, I finished from school. I mean, my work experience in my relevant field is 4 years at the moment. However, I did my compulsory 1 year youth service mandated by the federal government of Nigeria. That is
Yes.
a postgraduate work experience. So, and I did it in the teaching line profession where I taught agriculture, rural sciences in one of the high schools in Nigeria.
Yes.
And so I studied food science in my undergraduate course. In my undergraduate, I have a bachelor's degree in food science, and my 4 years work post-study work experience has been in the food industry. However, that 1 year youth service, I want to know, does it add up since it's kind of related, considering the
Yes.
fact that it's in the agricultural sector?
Okay, so to answer your first question, your employee referee report must be uploaded before you submit your application. Okay, it must be uploaded.
Correct.
Secondly, if you have 4 years work experience now, by the time January 2026 comes, you will have 5 years work experience. And we will take your National Youth Service into consideration as well. So technically, you would have 6 years of work experience. Okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually meant the academic referee, because of the difficulty in reaching them at time to help you come up with the report and all, due to the fact that it's been a long time you left school. I left school. So I just want to know, can it be uploaded after the submission of the application? Specifically the academic referee.
Okay, so my response would be get a referee report from somebody else. Perhaps the person where you did your National Youth Service from, maybe your church leader, if you are volunteering from somewhere else, and submit 2 referee reports as part of your application. And then when you get the academic referee report, you can email it to the program at a later stage. But before you click submit on your application, you must have two referee reports. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I just want to make sure that John, Emmanuel, give me 1 second. Emmanuel, Calvin, Otika, Grant, Ulo, Prince, Mary Jane, and Tagumi have been able to type their question into the chat box so that we can pick it up. Please type your question now before we close the program. And I'm going to share the email address that I would like for you to use if you have any queries. Give me 1 second. Australia Awards. So if you don't want to share your questions on the chat, please use that email address and submit an email to us so that we may be able to answer your questions. I'm really sorry we've gone 42 minutes over our scheduled time. Thank you very much for your patience. We really appreciate it. We will respond to these questions in email. And we will, we hope that it's been helpful for you and that it's given you some information to prepare your application. And we really look forward to receiving your applications. A special thanks to Minnie. We really appreciate it. And we will now end the webinar. And we will speak with you on email if you have any queries. We will also share the recording and the presentation with you in that email for everybody that attended the call. Thank you so much. Thank you now.